We are reviewing Die Hard Game Fan, Volume 1, Issue 12. So this is the last issue that I believe should be here for the first volume. And so in this issue here, looks like it's featuring the Super Empire Strikes Back for the Super Nintendo. So the first one was a pretty big hit for Nintendo, and so here we are moving along with the second one. And so what was already, I'm assuming back then, already expected what was going to be a trilogy of games, given the history of the original trilogy of movies anyways. But yeah, it looks like also we are checking out some Sega stuff here for Lunar, Stimpy's Invention, Treasureland, Dragon's Lair, and Sonic CD. And also the Incredible 3DO was looks like their first hands-on review. And we got a few other stuff too here also. Looks like with Clay Fighter, Art of Fighting, Tournament Fighters, Super Fate of Fury, Realm Now 1.5, and on the Super Nintendo, Secret of Mana, Jurassic Park, and Mega Man X. So the issue was still $4.95 here in the United States and $5.95 in Canada. So let's get to it here. All right, so here's a advertisement for RoboCop versus Terminator, and going from the background, if you can kind of tell here, from the previous issue that I was going over. Yep, looks like I think I called it right. It was for RoboCop versus Terminator. The table of contents here, so some things that we're going to be looking at in this issue. Echo the Dolphin on CD. I believe Spencer Nielsen, who also did the music for Sonic CD, did the music for this one, which I believe was pretty good on the Sega CD, the music anyways. But the game itself, I don't know. I've always kind of heard bad things about Echo the Dolphin. All right, so let's go with this editorial zone here. Looks like we actually got a fairly short one here. I can't believe that this is our 12th issue. I actually found 8 people that are crazy enough to stay up all night surrounded by Macs and video games. The way I see it, we have consumed about 250 pounds of coffee, contributed about 10 grand to our local fast food chain, and set up 100 controllers, melted down about 10 systems, put in a combined total of about 12,000 hours of gameplay, 13,000 words about video games. We started out in a teeny tiny little room with 2 slow Macs and a dim light. That place had its own atmosphere. After a couple of days in the sunlight, became a real experience. Now we refer to the place as the dungeon, but we have fond memories. Now we are, of course, in a more corporate environment, but we're still out of control and as much hardcore gamers as ever. No salesmen there enter this office for fear of permanent brain damage. I guess we really like video games, would you say? Wouldn't you say? As a matter of fact, it's 3 a.m. right now, and I've slept about 2 hours in the last 48. But you know what? Me and the rest of the staff can't wait to do it again. As long as you keep reading and we keep making and we can make gaming more enjoyable for you all, we will always be here, making sure you know what's in the wonderful and growing world of video games. We owe a lot to our valuable and incredibly smart readers, and we intend to deliver you the best magazine of all time. Wait until you see some of the good things we haven't planned for 94. It's going to be a great year. So thanks from all of us. I'll see you next month. I got to get some sleep. And we got an advertisement here for Dracula. And some cheats here. Nazine Saga, Sylphid, Street Fighter 2, Tiny Toons, and Shinobi 3. So I'll leave that a bit if you were going through these games and wanted to check out some of these cheats for yourself. And we're getting ads now for the Sega Genesis version of Street Fighter 2. So this was kind of exciting for me. I remember I just thought it was so cool, right? And all seeing Street Fighter 2 and Genesis, come together. And looks like it had an arcade stick of some sort. For me personally, unless you really need an arcade stick, I was always perfectly fine with that 6-button Sega Genesis controller. Gauntlet 4. And now we're getting advertisements for the 3DO. This is for Total Eclipse. And for Most Wanted. And Top 10. So again, I'll just kind of leave it on there if you want to read for yourself. But otherwise, top 10. So the number 1 was Mortal Kombat for the Sega Genesis. And the Most Wanted was still Sonic CD for the Sega CD. Oh, they're giving a Super Nintendo now this time. I think they had it crossed out last issue. Havoc is sailing your way soon. The 7 Seas will never be the same. This game here, I'm sure they'll talk about it here at some point, but this is definitely one of the hidden gems for me personally on the 16-bit generation. Just a really fun platformer, a bit of a, it takes some inspiration from Sonic, but it's also its own unique thing. And I actually thought this game was pretty fun. So it was developed by Data East. And more advertisements for wrestling games and then this Clay Fighter game. But here we get into Viewpoint. Let's see. Oh. There we go. It kind of glitches out there for a bit. But yeah, but let's look at these reviews here. So Sonic CD looks like was the game of the month. And they also had a contest here where we want to hear your viewpoints. Just write a review, 70 words or less, on a new release for the Super Nintendo, Genesis, Sega CD, Neo Geo, or 3DO, and send it in. We'll print 1 winner per month and send you the viewpoint game of your choice. Be honest. But let's look here what they had to say here on these games for this month. So Skid, so he said, Sonic City is the only game this year that I didn't beat in one day. With the addition... Did he say, yeah, didn't beat this one? Okay. With the addition of a second adventure, after finishing all the future goods and all the emeralds, this becomes the longest CD action title yet. And that music, Sega of America, don't change it too much. Now I hear that Sonic 3 is better. Could the perfect card join the perfect CD in 1993? So Sergeant Gamer says, Sonic City goes where no CD game has gone before. Sega has been slowly converting me to their new multimedia platform, and Sonic is the game that tips the scales. Easily one of the best games of 93. And Kay Lee said, no problem this time. Sonic City is my pick for this month. In fact, it's my pick for the year. It'll be a long while before we see anything better. And the Enquirer said, it's definitely that time of the year again. You know what that means. Sonic City is all I could think about and play this month. Even with Turtles and Jurassic Park around, nothing comes close to Sonic City. Nothing. Wow, so they really raved about Sonic City, right? Now, there's a bit of a catch to it all, right? As we'll see, not only in this issue, but then also in the later issues and all. But there was some pretty good stuff this month, though. So Stimpy's Invention. So Ren and Stimpy, Ren and Stimpy. If you were back from the 90s and all, I'm sure you know about Ren and Stimpy on Nickelodeon, but basically Ren is like this chihuahua and Stimpy is like a cat, I think. And it's, I mean, it was made for kids, but some of the humor can be a little crude and all, but it's, I used to get a kick out of it. I thought they were hilarious. And so anyways, they had a few video games that came out. There was some on the Super Nintendo, and then this one here on the Sega Genesis. I didn't play any on the Super Nintendo, but I played this one. I actually thought it's a pretty good game. I mean, they're giving it like in the 95, 92, 90, and 89. I don't know if I'd go that high, but it's definitely a fun game. And there was actually some pretty decent licensed games from, back in this generation here. And I would say Ren and Stimpy's Invention. It's what amongst, the higher, one of the better licensed games on the Genesis. So I would say if you're collecting on the Sega Genesis and you're ready to kind of run through the gauntlet of all the popular games like, the Sonics, the Streets of Rages and all that, definitely check this one out. It's a pretty good game. But I'll just read here the highest reviewed one here. So from Skid. So from out of nowhere comes one of the Sega's strongest titles of 1993. Stimpy's invention not only captures the look and the feel of the Nicktoon, but it is loaded with some of the most innovative play mechanics I have ever seen in a Sega cart. It is a bit short on easy, but just the right on normal or hard. I demand that all Genesis owners play this game. It is the most fun you'll have with farts and burps. Yeah, it's a fun game. I like that. But then we get to Aladdin, and so this game, the hype had been building up a little bit for this game already in the past few issues, and so finally it came out here for review. And so let's see, I'll read the highest one here. So Skid always seems to give usually some of the higher reviews or higher rated reviews, but so he said the development team at Virgin does in 3 months what most companies couldn't achieve in a year. Aladdin is without a doubt the most visually impressive cartridge-based game that I have ever seen. It is also a well thought out, long, and excellent controlling action platform, making this one of the action titles of '93 on the same level with Gunstar Heroes. Awards will be tough this year. Wow. And Sergeant Gamer, so he said, absolutely beautiful. Aladdin, in addition to being one of the best looking games ever made, is an addictive, challenging action platform cartoon that is to video games what the movie was to animated features. Brilliant. This game is for all gamers. It is not to be missed. Aladdin is sure to be around when it gets close to a wartime. So yeah, I mean, it's a great game. Like I said, great play mechanics, great animation, great graphics. The music reminiscent to the movie, just good all around. It somehow Aladdin translated to be a pretty decent video game. Then we also got RoboCop versus Terminator. This game was pretty cool. It's there was so the Genesis one and then the Super Nintendo one, and the Genesis one ended up being better. Again, kind of like the Mortal Kombat situation where the Genesis one just had the more violence and all. And I never played the Super Nintendo one, but this one was pretty cool. It's definitely bloody. So we'd run review here. So for action and shooter fans alike, RoboCop vs. Terminator is a shot-dodging carnage fest that has you constantly dishing out and receiving pain, just like the movie it is patterned after. The RoboCop and Terminator characters are drawn perfectly, and the game is 16 megs long with a capital L. MA13 is good for me. Bring them on. The censors be damned. RoboCop vs. Terminator is one blasting bloody good time. This is by far the best of all the RoboCop games. The graphics, animation, and sound effects are top notch, and the game is just a little on the difficult side, but not enough to frustrate you. Blood flows and heads pop, so keep your mom away from the TV. This one's for the carnage lovers of America. Oh yeah, don't we love our carnage here, huh? Sonic Spinball. A little bit that I've tried this game and all. I don't know. It doesn't really hook me that much, but looks like they thought okay, it was just okay also. And this next page is upside down, so let's flip it around. Okay. So Tournament Fighters, this is the Sega Genesis version, and it got okay scores. Nothing too crazy. Well, one of them actually just gave it a 49. And then Battletoads and Double Dragon, they got okay reviews too also. The Son of Chuck on the Sega CD. Let's see. Looks like they gave it okay grades, but I think it was just kind of like there's nothing too much more about it, right? So Son of Chuck is a great cartridge game. It is definitely worth buying if you own the Sega CD and didn't buy the Genesis game, but if you did, don't bother with the CD. There is a great intro, cool music, and a few nice effects, but not enough to warrant the purchase of both. So, yeah. I mean, and that was the thing, right, with the Sega CD and all. Sometimes they just really didn't take too much advantage of what the Sega CD could do. So I remember that being a complaint a lot back then. The Sonic CD got 100% all the way across. So again, this is the Japanese version here, right? But so let's see, starting off with the first review. So how does one describe the perfect action game? I think everyone needs to experience Sonic City for themselves. All I can say is that from the opening to the ending, it is pure gaming bliss. From the smooth opening to the 3D bonus rounds to the awesome music, this game screams 16-bit perfection. It is also one of the longest games of its kind. Beat this one for real, and you've arrived. Next review. So, if Sega had released this game a year ago, nobody would be talking about 32 or 64-bit. Sonic City is an outstanding game that really shows off the strengths of the Sega CD. If you don't own a CD and Batman Returns wasn't enough to convince you, this will. The odds-on favorite for Game of the Year. And next review, Heaven on Earth has arrived in the form of Sonic City. To call this game a masterpiece is a gross understatement. So I think Too Good to Be True is more appropriate. Music, the best. Play control, perfect. Graphics, awesome. Long levels, of course. Competition, get real. Sega has now rewritten all the rules. The best action game of all time, believe it. And last review. So the perfect game for the Sega CD. Sonic CD takes the Hedgehog to a totally new level, never experienced in gaming until now. Sonic CD has everything from music to gameplay that truly cannot be done on cartridge. Sonic City has put Sega ahead of the game once again. So pretty high praise, right? Now, I think for the most part, a lot of different outlets and all did like Sonic City, but I think that they really raved about this game a lot. And I do recall it might have been maybe this game that finally pushed us to get the Sega CD. Because we got it around this time here, and because we ended up getting the Model 2 version, the one that has the button that flips up the lid where you can put the disc in instead of where the tray ejects out. And I want to say, I think it was this reviewer and all that finally prompted us to get it, because Sonic City would have been among the first games that we got for it. And, I've said before, right, I'm not the biggest Sonic fan. Not that I hate the games and all. It's just that, being a big Sega kid and all, I'm not as big of a fan of its main, I guess, flagship game series, right? But again, I come from a Sega fan before Sonic, right? And so, but while I enjoyed the games, this is the one that we actually bought. We really invested time in and all. And I think this is why this one ends up being my favorite. A lot of it might just be nostalgia, but I really do enjoy the time mechanic of it, where you can go, to the different time zones and all and explore and, try to find that kind of clamshell looking thing to try to make a good future. I feel like that added a lot of replayability to the game that a lot of the previous ones didn't have for me. And that's a big part of the reason why I think I enjoy this one, because you can still play as Sonic, right? So meaning that you get the crazy speed and all that, which is always fun. But I do kind of like that exploration element to the game, though. And maybe some people don't like it too much because Sonic CD, or I'm sorry, just Sonic in general, is not always known to be a great platforming game. It's a fun like speed game, I guess, where you're going fast through the levels. But if it has like more platforming and exploration elements, it tends to be a little frowned upon in this series, at least in the 2D games. And I enjoy it though for that. I think it's great. I love it for that. And it's just, and I think that's a big part of the reason why I enjoy this one. And then, the music also, the graphics are pretty good as well too. Also, the only thing I have a knock on this game, and it's kind of a weird critique on it, but it's the the graphics look nice and the stages look nice and all. It's just that the theme of the stages are a little weird, like quartz quadrant or wonky workbench or whatever it's called. I don't know. They have a kind of a weird design to them and all, but which kind of throws me off a little bit, especially where the other Sonic games have more of recognizable or more, I guess, simplified locations and all. I don't know. It's kind of hard to explain, but Sonic City just has kind of some weird locales on it and all. But aside from that, though, I mean, the levels are still really fun and all. The only one I'm not a biggest fan of that workbench, wonky workbench or whatever it's called stage, but everything else is really great. And yeah, I really enjoy this game. I think it's definitely my favorite Sonic game. One of the best games on the Sega CD, and the one that I would choose for the 2D Sonic games from this era here. Let's see, and I think I'm pretty sure I have to double check, but I'm pretty sure it was a best-selling game on the Sega CD as well too. But then we got Dragon's Lair here, and so for Dragon's Lair, It pretty close to the arcade from what it sounds like. It's just that ultimately the full motion video on it and all was a little blurry, but ultimately if you can get past that, was pretty cool. But then as we jump over to the Super Nintendo, so we had Super Empire Strikes Back. So we run review here. So the sequel to Super Star Wars is here, and it's twice as long as the first one. The levels in Super Empire are very long and extremely hard. This game is a little too similar to Super Star Wars for my taste, but other than that, the game is great. The soundtrack is astounding, the bosses are huge, and the Mode 7 is stunning. Yeah, I played the first one. I think it's pretty fun, but I never really went too far past that, though. Okay, so then we got The Secret of Mana. So here's a game that I just can't seem to figure out how to how to advance more in the game from its early start. I talked about it somewhere and all, but I can't seem to get past the first initial starting point of the game. But anyways, I'll read the highest review here. So let's see. So 96%. So Square has produced an action RPG title that fans of the Zelda series are going to spend many late nights with, attempting to find the secrets of mana. What really impresses me about this game is the length. 3-player simul capability with and trademark Square quality graphics and music. Okay, so Flipperoo. For some reason, the pages weren't apparently skinned incorrectly. That's okay. So the Art of Fighting for Super Nintendo. So with a pretty decent port. And then this Clay Fighter game, they really gave it some pretty high reviews. So let's see. I'll read the top one here. So, okay, so how did Interplay do this intro? Wait till you hear it. But where the real fun begins is the first time you hear Oh Mama or any other of the countless sights and sounds of Clay Fighter. The best thing to happen to fighting games this year. Graphics is good and sound is clear, have never been seen on the Super Nintendo. And fun? Oh yeah, big time. You get the moves you want, great controls, and the coolest characters imaginable. Just excellent. I've never. I don't know if I've even booted up this game. I'd be curious to check this game out. I guess just to see what it's all about, because it was this one, and then eventually got a sequel. Mm. Maybe I'll try to check it out today. But then Battletoads and Double Dragon. Looks like the Super Nintendo was a better version on this one. And Tournament Fighters for the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. So this one was, I do remember reading this in a few different places, that the Genesis one was kind of like meh, but the Super Nintendo one actually was pretty decent. I played a little bit of it ever since that Turtles collection came out recently, and it seems fun. Maybe I should try to give it a shot a little bit more. Let's see, I'll read one review here. So, Tournament Fighters for the Super Nintendo is the only serious alternative to Street Fighter II for the serious fighting game enthusiast. Not only because it is an excellent fighting game in every way, but because it is so similar in execution. This is trademark Konami quality. They've still got it on the Super Nintendo. Yeah. And then there's Ramna One Half Hard Battle. I think this is based off of some kind of an anime. I'm not sure. But then we got Jurassic Park on the Super Nintendo. So it looks like this got pretty decent reviews too. So let's see. So this is a Super NES game. You want action? Done. You want 3D adventure? Done. You want Q sound? It's in there. Ocean's version of Jurassic Park leaves all the others in the dust with the surprise performance of the year for the Super Nintendo. Of all the games I sat down with this month, I spent the most time right here. Once you're past the learning curve, the game becomes totally addicting. Great 3D. No save feature keeps this one from the top of the scale. Oh, interesting. And this game called Legend. Oh, looks like I didn't think too highly of it. And an advertisement for the Soldiers of Fortune game. I've never played this game. I'm always kind of curious about it. And it's out on the Genesis. It was out on the Genesis and the Super Nintendo by Spectrum Hobite. Adventures of Monitor here. Advertisement for Mortal Kombat. I don't know. That almost looks like the arcade version. Are we false advertising here? An interview with Capcom, or at least from Joe Morici. Advertisement for Street Fighter 2 Turbo. And Joe and Mac that came over to the Genesis from Takara. Takara, they were doing some good ports back then. But here we are with the Sega sector. Lunar. Oh, my beloved Lunar. I love this game so much. So this is kind of at the height of uh, our height for like how interested we were in the Sega CD, right? So again, we had Sonic City, and then we had this Lunar game. And so if you recall a few issues back, I think it would have been issue 4 or 5 or so, the one with the Terminator in the front, where they were really raving about this game in Japan, but now it was getting ported over here to the United States. And so I thought it was cool, right? That I was like, oh, this is a game that, because up to this point, I hadn't played a Final Fantasy game, but I've been kind of hearing about it, a little bit about Dragon Quest also. But I just always felt like, Sega would never get a game like that. But then here we get Lunar, which sounded amazing, kind of along the lines of those games, and it was on a CD, and now it was coming out to the United States, so I was really hyped for this game here. So when I saw this, that they started doing a preview here for it with the North American version, I was pretty excited. So, well, all my fellow RPG fans, it has finally happened. We're getting an RPG again, because especially on the Sega consoles, they just weren't that relevant back then. Not only that, but we're getting the best one. Lunar, the Silver Star story. Uh, we owe it big. We owe a big thanks to Working Designs for not only doing it, but doing it right. Get ready for the role-playing adventure of a lifetime on the Sega CD. Since this is only a preview, I don't want to give much away, so take a look at these pages for some opening story and early fighting scenes. Think of it as an interactive layout. I played through the import version of Lunar, and I cannot express to you how much better it is in English, especially with the new touches that Working Designs has added. The acting, for instance, is brilliant. Sega CD owners, get ready for the RPG of the year, Lunar the Silver Star. See you next month with lots more. P.S. Wait till you see the packaging. Yeah, because Working Designs did just amazing work on their packaging when they would bring games over, and especially like on the Sega CD and all, because so the Sega CD they had the long box uh, CD cases, and so meaning that the manuals were pretty decent size, right? And so that really gave them some freedom to really go all out on the packaging. It had like almost like this kind of silver lining around it, and all that made it look pretty fancy. And the paper quality was really good. Um, yeah, I mean the packaging to Working Designs games were great. Makes for great collector items. And Lunar, I never owned this game, but a friend of mine, I think I've talked about him before in one of the previous issues, but so they had the Sega CD, and so this is a game that they got. And so I remember borrowing the game a lot from them. And I have a lot of fond memories of this game. There was, I remember the first time I borrowed this game I was kind of going through a rough moment and all. And so this game really helped me through that there. And so just a lot of fun memories of this game. And I'll talk a little bit about more when they actually review it. But yeah, just a great game. And I just remember being really happy when I saw this here, right? That it was coming out to the United States. All right, so another one here where the page came out a little sideways. But as you can see here, right, and all they're showing off like a lot of the text here for the first part of the game, and then some of the cinemas. Now the cinemas, they had a little bit of animation to them, and they were kind of like still shots, but like their mouse would move and have like simple animations. So the good thing about that was that because it wasn't actually like full motion video, it didn't look like grainy like the way a lot of full motion video would. And so it was a pretty cool effect and all for the Sega CD back then. And the acting for what it was, back in all, yeah, it was decent. Again, we're talking of early 1990s, right? So, but you could tell that they put effort into it, right, and all. But yeah, great stuff. Little switcheroo again. And yeah, so they go towards the first part of the game. There's a map of the first area of the game too. I mean, for back then, the game was decent sized. But here they're talking about Chuck 2, and again, the pages get sideways here. Okay. What are we doing here? Another game that I haven't really played. I'll try to give it a go at some point. No, now it's upside down. Cool. And here's Sonic City. So Sonic hit with a bang back in 1990 when we were all starving for an original action game character from Sega of America. Everyone played it, everyone loved it, and a new superstar was born. Then came Sonic 2, which was a great game, but did not have nearly as much impact on us as the first installment. I don't know about that. Um, so what is the producer to do? I'll tell you what, give us a sequel on CD for the programmers of the original, and don't forget to add some gnarly special effects and make it sure it's got CD written all over it. Well, that's exactly what Sega has done. Sega's Sonic City is exactly what I wanted it to be: long, fun, and most importantly, next generation. As the Sega CD hardware comes into play here, big time, with awesome 3D bonus rounds and lengths you can only find on the CD title. If you're a Sonic connoisseur, as I am, you will surely finish this amazing quest in about 3 to 4 fun-filled hours. But alas, you are far from finished with. Oh, rotate again. With Sonic City, as you will find out after viewing the entire ending, there's an entirely new game packed within. But hey, there's only one way to get there. This is what you have to do. In the first 2 rounds of each zone, you must locate and destroy Robotnik's medical pod, this thing turning the future to good. Then, after fighting Robotnik in the present, you must destroy the required number of pods in the 3D bonus round and collect the Chaos Emerald. Repeat this in each of the 7 zones, and it's on to a whole new game. Equal in length, but harder than the first, with even better graphics. So you get twice the Sonic at half the price. Not only to the game itself, remember Sonic 1 loaded with personality, unique levels, and intricate play mechanics? Well, it's back, just bigger, better than ever. Sorry to steal your slogan, SNK, but I don't think you'll be needing it much longer. Complete with music that makes you want to stay in each level as long as possible. Sound effects that will have you looking for over your shoulder for Dr. Robotnik. Action Game of the Year? Well, for me, the CD is most definitely, but there is some competition with Gunstar Heroes and Aladdin. So who will reign supreme? I guess you will. I guess that would be you and I, since we're the lucky ones who get to choose. I don't know what he's talking about there. Maybe I'm missing something on this one because I know that you can. So in Sonic City, you can, like, if you play the game, you just kind of speed through it and all that, right? You'll, where you're not trying to make the feature good and all, you'll get like the bad ending and all. But then if you make the feature good, then you get like the good ending. But as far as I know, that's it. So it almost sounds like he's talking about something else outside of that. I don't know. I don't know about that. Could be wrong, but I don't think so. But Ren and Stimpy. Yes, it was a fun game. The graphics are they definitely do justice to giving you the feel of the game. It's like a platforming game and all, and you can move between Ren and Stimpy. Definitely has that kind of weird sort of artwork to the game that the show was known for. Yeah, like I said, it's definitely a very kind of underrated Sega Genesis game. Definitely worth a look. Then we get to Aladdin. So finally, they get to review this game here. And if that's true, that the game was only made in 3 months, that's impressive. Just they did a really good job on it. So the long wait is finally over. The Sega Genesis version of Aladdin is here. This game has received more media coverage than Michael and Madonna combined, and the question on everybody's mind is, does the game live up to the hype? The answer is an unqualified yes. Aladdin is loaded with features that make it one of the most playable video games of all time. From the Agrabah market to the Sultan's palace, Aladdin offers enough play mechanics to bring you to the game and offer you the chance to be Aladdin, and enough hidden features to keep you coming back to the game long after you've conquered the evil Jafar. The secret to succeeding in Aladdin is building up your lives over the first 4 levels so that when you reach the Cave of Wonders, you can hopefully make it through the cave without using your continues. This will give you a much better chance getting through the lamp and palace levels, and then of beating Jafar. Experienced gamers will find the first 4 levels fairly easily on the normal difficulty setting, but don't be fooled. Aladdin is designed so that you are not frustrated early on, and then when you've made decent progress through the game, it brings out the heavy gameplay and tests all your gaming skills. Aladdin is one game that has remained faithful to the movie while expanding the theme to create an interactive play environment without equal. Genesis owners proceed directly to your retailer and buy this game, while others are just beginning to talk about virtual reality and the new interactive Hollywood. Disney, Sega, and Virgin have just put it on the shelves. Yeah, this is it's interesting what he says there because I mean, it even kind of fits to like today, right? Not to knock on virtual reality at all, because I think virtual reality is it's cool. It is kind of gimmicky and all that, but it's cool. It's a cool thing, and I feel like it's a cool alternative way of playing games. I wouldn't say it's like replaces the normal way of playing games, but I think it kind of leads to kind of the same thing what it is nowadays, right? And all that. For some reason, the video game industry. Well, I shouldn't say, but for some reason, basically it's money, right? But for the longest time, the video game industry has always been trying to chase like Hollywood. And that's still kind of the sentiment today, even though Hollywood seems to be kind of on a on a downward spiral. But it was always like trying to capture that feel of trying to be Hollywood. And but when it came down to it, and even to this day, we just want fun games to play. You can have like Hollywood elements in it, like for example, Disney's Aladdin, right? Where you're using the license of it, but make the game good, make it fun. That's really what people wanted, right? Give you good controls, a gameplay style, right? That is very well done, very well polished, something that is popular at the time. So like action platformers were really popular back then, and that's it. I mean, that's what a lot of gamers want, but it's trend chasing and everything and all, and trying to chase Hollywood and all. That's been a theme for me from back then and until now, and it's just something that eventually, right, and I'll plague the industry more and more. I feel, but yeah, I mean, and I get it, and if you're a business, I mean, you're gonna chase the money, right? So like nowadays, it's live service stuff and all that, but and I'm assuming that back then they were probably starting to the appeal of like trying to do more virtual reality, 3D stuff, and all that was definitely there, and 3D obviously, right, and not just because that's where the industry was heading, but I guess the sentiment is just that they were, sometimes some of these trends that they were chasing and all wasn't necessarily always for the best, um, but anyway, just some thoughts on that as I was reading that there. But either way, great game though, Aladdin. Dragon Slayer here doesn't look too bad. All things considered for the system that it was running on back then. Beauty and the Beast. It's upside down, but I don't think I'll go over that. RoboCop versus Terminator. So once upon a time, there was a cop named Murphy who got himself so full of holes that his brain survived, that only his brain survived. Luckily, however, OCP has the technology to keep him alive as a crime-fighting cybernetic organism. Happy, happy, joy, joy. Since then, Old Murphy has clanked through 2 movies and 3 video games, and now in this 4th in his series of video games, or no, adventures, he has been properly portrayed in a battle against characters from an equally exploited movie, The Terminator. What I wouldn't give for a month of peace of Peter Weller's royalty checks. RVT takes the arcade-style scrolling action adventure to new heights with a measurable amount of much appreciated carnage along with excellent visuals, good controls, creative designs, and excellent music. Qualities that are hard to incorporate into this type of game. Let's face it, this genre has been blown by nearly everyone in the business. So when someone gets it right, you best go out and get yourself one. What makes RoboCop vs. Terminator such a good game is greatly is the layout of the levels and placement of intelligence of the enemies. Somehow, the designers have made it possible to dodge just about everything the enemy can throw at you while still maintaining a huge lead character and levels that are packed with playability, hidden secrets, and vertical as well as horizontal elements. Add to that a great soundtrack for a cartridge, perfectly drawn sprites, and a bit of flying goo, and you've got yourself a pretty healthy dose of RoboCop versus Terminator action. So, in conclusion, if this is your type of game, then you'll certainly be pleased with. I think I read that wrong, but whether you favor the Super Nintendo or the Genesis, both games pack an equally impressive dose of pure arcade action. But the Genesis one had blood. Sonic Spinball. Oh yeah, I mean they were exploiting Sonic. The Tournament Fighters on the Sega Genesis. So again, it was a just okay received, nothing too crazy. And this Pugsy game here that I remember them. They just had. I think this is really like one of the main things that I ever saw about this game, but I don't really know much about it. But some of the things that they talk about here, so it has 256 colors on screen in the intro, anyways. I guess it has great music, over 38 tunes in all. It has phenomenal graphics. It has mind-blowing scaling and rotation. It has huge bosses with tons of enemies. There are so many levels that we don't know how many there are. The level of interaction with your environment is unparalleled. It has brilliant play mechanics. It is totally addicting. You can save your progress, rest, have a delicious snack, and come back later. Pugsy isn't an action game. It's not a puzzle game. It is not a role-playing game, but it's sort of all of the above. It's an action-adventure quest puzzle role-playing game. Experience Pugsy's world for yourself this holiday season. Hey guys, I just wrote a freaking commercial. Can I put it in the mag? Yeah, like supposedly it had some pretty cool effects to it and all. But I think it was by Psygnosis, if I recall. Or Sony, I guess. Oh, it says Sony then. Dragon's Revenge, so it was like a pinball game. And then Battletoads and Double Dragon. And then Ronald McDonald's Treasure Land. So it was a game by Treasure. So Gunstar Heroes came out first, and then eventually this game here. I wasn't quite sure which one did, but yeah, it looks like they got these games out fairly quickly. What I can recall of it. It's a pretty fun game. It's Ronald McDonald's and all, but I mean, it plays pretty good and all. It's a very colorful platformer. And then Dracula on the Sega CD. So because here was another game that we got for the Sega CD also. We were impressed with the graphics, and the music actually is really excellent on this game too also. The play mechanics, I mean, it was one of those things back then where, you got the game and it's like, I mean, you just kind of got used to it and all, but the novelty of the graphics, though, kind of kept you hooked for a bit on this one. At least it did for me. because basically the backgrounds are all like CGI or SGI, where but you can still, I mean, like if you're moving back and forth on the levels, you know, the levels will kind of scroll according to your movement. And I mean, it was a bit grainy because again, the Sega CD can only do so much color and the resolution too, also. But the effect was still pretty cool. And you know, again, the game is a little clunky, but it was impressive to see. You know, for the first time, I will say. And it was very different from the cartridge version, where that was just like your generic action platformer. Where this one, it's kind of a side-scrolling beat 'em up, I guess you can say, where you're, you know, at least at first you're only punching and kicking like bats and birds and spiders, but eventually the enemies do get a little bit more complex and a very difficult game, though. I will say that very difficult. I did end up beating it back then because again, it was one of those games where you know we had it, we were like, well, you know, let's just play it. But I do remember being very mesmerized by the graphics back then, and again, the music is really excellent too. Mad Dog McCree made it over to the Sega CD. That rhymed. Pink Panther goes to Hollywood. Even by this time, I think Pink Panther was already starting to become kind of like an old, you know, it was already kind of considered like an old cartoon. Socket. Well, it looks like a little strategy guide here. Fun game. I think we talked about it last month, but yeah, fun game. Stellar Fire. It's a game on the Sega CD. I don't really recall much of this one here. Was Sega previous, or they're talking about so this Eternal Eternal Champions, yeah, game. Cliffhanger on the Sega CD, which was more or less on the cartridge. It was just like a, you know, like your typical action platformer back then. But the Sega CD version had like these 3D skiing or snowboarding levels. So kind of like what they did with the Batman Return City, where it was your generic, you know, Genesis action platforming game, but then they added like these extra scaling driving levels or snowboarding levels. High Seas Havoc. This is one of my favorite, very underrated Sega Genesis games. It's let's see, another great new character is on his way to your Genesis. Data East High Seas Havoc, starting Havoc, joins the likes of Sonic, Socket, and Gunstar heroes Bubsy, Sparkster, and Aereo. Will Havoc live up to the challenge and join the action platform elite? Find out next month. It was a great game. I enjoyed High Seas Havoc. It's nothing special or anything and all. But I thought it was a fun game. Let's advertisement for Socket. H3 Thunderstrike, excellent game. We talked about that a few issues back. And Popful Mail. So here's another game too, also, right, that was starting to make the Sega CD more and more appealing. I remember wanting to get this game. We just never did. And even to this day, I've only played it a little bit on emulation. And it seems like a cool little 2D action platformer. But let's see, Popful Mail, what an odd name. What does it mean? I guess it must mean really great game, a lot like Wonder Boy and Monster World for your Mega CD. Popful Mail is Sega Falcom's answer to interactive software. In this highly polished action RPG, every time you come across a key character, you stop and have a conversation complete with animated faces, real voices. Besides that, Popful Mail is a great action game with great music and incredible detail. Both your characters and the enemies are animated completely. The whole game just reeks of quality. Since the early review we received from Falcom had just one complete level, that's all I can tell you for now. Popful Mail will be released this January in Japan and will make its way stateside soon. Yeah, this is one game I do want to try to get into. It just looks fun. And eStorm's import update. Let's see, so they're talking about Eye of the Beholder. So I just remember that game being significant, mainly for like Yuzo Koshiro that did the music. And then this Bay RPG. So this was also done by Working Designs. I played a little bit of it and all. It seems like a like a cool little RPG. Not quite like on the level of like what Lunar was and all, but still seems like it could be cool. And this microcosm game. So from a few issues back, right, we looked at it on the FM Towns Marty, but it was coming out on the Sega CD. And Virtual Racer. So by next issue, we have played Virtual or Sega's ultra fast version of Virtual Racing. If our sources are correct, this version should have the same adrenaline rush as the arcade. Virtual should make it around Christmas, but look for a heavy price tag of around $100. Not bad considering the coin op cost $20,000. Okay, I remember the Genesis also got a version of Art of Fighting. And the PC Engine here. Yeah, and Art of Fighting was also coming out to it as well too. So Art of Fighting had a bit of a following back then. Looks like it was getting ported everywhere at least. Splatterhouse 3. Love it. Oh, and an interview with David Perry. I'd be interested in reading this too also. I'm pretty sure they're talking about like Aladdin and all that. And Mario's Missing ad. Super Star Wars ad. Now we go to the Planet Super Nintendo with Empire Strikes Back. Super Star Wars is still one of my favorite games for the Super Nintendo. The game really captured the spirit, flair, and feel of the movie. Now, just 1 year later, JVC slash LucasArts is back with the obvious sequel, Super Empire Strikes Back. Super Empire has everything you liked about the original, only more of it, with longer levels and once again the ability to play as Luke, Han, and Chewie. Only this time you don't choose; the program does. Uh, Super Empire, I guess, also features new Mode 7 3D sequences that are patterned on those that were so successful in the original. This time around, you get to pilot the snow speeder over Hoth, trying to destroy probes, bikers, ATST walkers, and AT-AT walkers, fly through space in the Millennium Falcon and destroying TIE fighters, and zoom through a Technicolor sky in the X-Wing, battling cloud cars. Fortunately, the game is very difficult and is not just your basic move and shoot. Super Empire requires that you analyze every level and make wise weapon selection. If you try to move as quickly as you can, rushing through a level, shooting all the way, the game will be over before you can blink and start staring at Yoda's ugly mug once again. Take your time with Super Empire Strikes Back. For Star Wars fans, this game will be at the top of the wish list this Christmas, and you're not going to be disappointed. Not only does Empire Strikes Back have great, ooh, that looks cool, but great graphics, excellent music and sound, but it also offers the best challenges, or one of the best challenges to be experienced to experienced game players available on the Super Nintendo. The dark side will not be conquered easily or quickly. With Super Empire, Rebel Assault, and Sega's new arcade game all coming soon, 1993 has turned out to be a great year for the Force. Huh. And Secret of Mana here. Another game I do want to try to beat at some point. If I can figure out how to get that damn sword out of the I was talking about it, so I do my. I've been going through like the years in gaming. I think that's where I talked about it. And so when I was talking about this year, 1993, and mentions Secret of Mana. So basically, on this game, at the start of the game, there's like a section there where you have to pull a sword out of like this little river, and I'm probably just missing something, but I've tried it several times and I can't seem to figure out how to get past that area to get so I just get stuck in it. And I've tried it like a handful of times, and I've just refused how to look it up online because I feel it's like the simplest of solutions on how to get past that little area. But I've just been kind of embarrassed that I just can't seem to figure that out, because otherwise this game looks great, like something I would get into, but I just for some reason can't figure out the first 5 minutes of the game. But it does seem cool though. Actually, I think it would tell you right here. Oh no, wait, what is this? Oh no, this is talking about some other section of the game. Yeah, so they used to do like these little walkthroughs there and all. Fatal Fury 2. Yeah, the Super Nintendo and the Genesis both had decent ports of um, Fatal Fury 2. Super Putty, Art of Fighting, Karate Man. Great last name. Or great name for a boss. Mega Man X. I should try playing this game. I just always have heard really good things about Mega Man X. This Clay Fighter game. And Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Tournament Fighter. The graphics look pretty impressive on it. Yeah, we were starting to see a lot of fighting games back then. Like and Battletoads and Double Dragon. This Ramna game. And Jurassic Park. So for this, I mean, they really raved about this game. I didn't half mind the Genesis one, but it's very different from this one, right? Where that was more of a side-scrolling game. But apparently, this game wasn't too bad. According to these guys, anyways. And Legend. Like some kind of a hack and slash, kind of like Golden Axe or King of Dragons, like that kind of style from what it looks like. Which is still cool. I mean, the graphics look pretty nice and all, but didn't get the best of reviews neither. So at the end, he says, "So I will neither recommend or discommend Legend. You know what you like. Act accordingly." Lester the Unlikely. Dennis the Menace. Not a, there was a lot of licensed games back then too, for sure. I mean, it was a lot of. I mean, there was a lot of cool properties back then, right, from like movies and such and all that. So I mean, they definitely try to capitalize on a lot of that out there. The Adventures of Dr. Franken. A lot of Super Nintendo games that I don't, and like I said, I never had the Super Nintendo. So like, I know a lot of like the kind of more quirky Sega games or, you know, games that kind of flew under the radar. But for the Super Nintendos, there's a lot of them that I'm not familiar with. Like, this one, for example. Like this one also. What is this? First person action adventure. Oh, interesting. Almost like a very early kind of like Elden, or not Elden Ring, like Elder Scrolls almost. Ooh, evil in its blackest form has been released onto the world, and there is only one way to restore perfect order. Secret of Mana. I do want to try this game at some point. That's when Squaresoft was just starting to come out with a lot of quality stuff. So some previews here. So Sengaku was coming out to the Super Nintendo. Claymates. Mobile Suit Gundam. This is based on an anime. Art of Fighting. And for the import update. So let's see, those Twin B, Dragon Ball Z game. An R-Type game. R-Type 3, right? Yeah, R-Type 3. Lufia and the Fortress of Doom. I've heard these games are okay too. There's Lufia and Lufia 2. Super Nintendo had so many great RPGs on it. And we get to the sports section here. John Madden 94. Hmm. I thought that this version here, I've actually been kind of playing it a little bit. During football season, I'll like try to play a football game like on the side, right? And I don't get too fully invested in it, but just to kind of play along, right? And all. And this year, this is the one that I've been playing on my RG35X little portable system. And yeah, it's a good game of football. I mean, Madden on the Genesis, they were always really great games. Oh, it looks like though the Super Nintendo version though was a little bit better in some cases. There's a racing game here. And Tecmo Super Bowl. These games are a lot of fun too. They're just more arcadey like, but still a lot of fun. And FIFA Soccer. Yeah, this the Sega CD version is the one that we really got into, but we used to have tournaments and all there with my brother and some of my uncles, and I think even some friends and my dad even to an extent and all. And we just used to have a lot of fun playing these FIFA Soccer games. Let's see, it's upside down again. Yeah, I gotta read through this because this game actually brings me back a lot of nostalgia. Because I think we rented it on the Genesis one, but then afterwards, yeah, when we saw that the Sega CD version came out, then we went with that one. But I think that came out the following year for this one here. So finally, the ultimate soccer simulation has arrived, and as you've probably guessed, it comes to the Sega Genesis courtesy of EA Sports. The options list in FIFA International Soccer is long and varied. The game features tournament and league modes with EA's new four-way play adapter, fully supported manual or computer-controlled goalies, instant replays, scanning goalie and corner kicks windows, different weather conditions, and the ability to configure teams in different offensive, defensive play formations. Every international team is rated in 6 different skill areas, and there's even an EA All-Stars team comprised of some of the producers, marketing people, and programmers and artists that help produce a game. The game features an unparalleled level of control over your players. They can lob, chip, pass, and shoot at different heights um, and directions: volley, bicycle kick, and back heel. All of these moves are under your control and are based on the position of the ball and the relationship of your player to the opponent. The 3-4 graphics are excellent. The 3-4 graphics and excellent animation are the best ever seen in a 16-bit soccer simulation. The designers have even seen to it that the crowd is fully animated with all the singing and chanting that is so prevalent at European contests. EA Sports has a definitive soccer football for our European friends game on their hands. Look for a full review of this great title in the December edition of Gamefan Sports, when Dr. E will tackle the game head on and show why America is about to get a heavy duty case of World Cup fever. Yeah, it was really fun. Just a fun game of soccer, and definitely set a standard, right, of quality for what to expect with soccer games, just the way like football was, right? So, I mean, EA Sports, they definitely changed things back then, right? Because they were, it's like now, like there's a certain expectation, right, and all that we were expecting with the sports games that they would come out. So they set certain standards, right? With football, hockey, then soccer, and then eventually golf and all that. And sometimes there was other games from other companies that might have been better, but EA Sports was really trying to push the envelope, right, and all, making quality sports games. But then we get Montana 94. This game was a pretty cool game of football too, also. They kind of changed it up some, and also has that sports talk technology, which is still very impressive even to this day. Tecmo Super NBA basketball. So. And this hockey game. Nope, NHL 94. Classic. Mm. Pages are all over the place on this one. It's a golf game, tennis game here. NHL. Is this NHL 94? Oh no, this is for the Super Nintendo. And Super 3D baseball. Like they probably use some Mode 7, I would assume. Talking about the first Joe Montana game on the Genesis. So this would have come out, I believe, in 1990. So I think, if I recall right, um, Sega was looking for a football game because they got Joe Montana on board, and they were looking for a football game. And I think, was it EA Sports maybe that had this game ready to go? They just slapped the Joe Montana name on it or something like that. Um, okay, here we go. So they talk a bit about it here. So welcome to the Hall of Fame, where great performers from the see, where great performers from the past are honored for the benefit of those new system owners who may have never played the game, and to revive sweet memories for those of us who have already enjoyed them. First off, blow the dust off the original Joe Montana football for the Sega Genesis. All right, sorry, I had a little interruption there, but so this game has very interesting history. Back in the fall of 1990, Sega of America had 3 different versions of the game in development, and none of these titles were what they had hoped for. In the meantime, Park Place and Electronic Arts were finishing the original John Madden football, and the game players at Sega were freaking out over this revolutionary game. Sega decided that they had to have a product that could, at the very least, come close to the level of quality that had been present in Madden. So, desperate to make the Christmas season, Sega handed over the reins to EA team, and they took the very basic elements of the Madden game and brought them into a top-down perspective. The game never succeeded on the level of Madden did, although sequels have been narrowing the gap over the past 3 years. But the gameplay, especially the harrowing Oh, the narrate. Oh, in the. Oh, I'm sorry. The gameplay, especially the in the mass passing game, was excellent for the time, and the play mechanics have held up reasonably well in the face of today's more advanced competition. The only major flaw in this game was that it was too easy to absolutely blow the computer opponent off the field. When I was playing Montana regularly, it was common for opponents to it's common for my team to pass over 600 yards and score upwards of 80 points. The game is not currently available, though. Is not currently available through the Sega Genesis Classics label, but can be acquired through rental outlets and used software dealerships or dealers or emulation. But yeah, so I did recall this, right? And all, like it had like a you could see it was a face mask and all. But I've never actually played this version, so I'm kind of curious to see what it plays like. But um, but yeah, so basically, yeah, it's like they were scrambling to get a game, and I think like Electronic Arts had a version ready to go or so. So they used like basically that game and slapped the Joe Montana label on it or something to that effect there. But yeah, that's what Sega was trying to acquire all kinds of big names and and it helped them originally, right? I mean, before they got Sonic on board because they had Joe Montana, Arnold Palmer, Pat Riley, Buster Douglas. So here we go with Super Street Fighter 2. I really like the improved character portraits in this one here. Oh, okay, we're getting our way through this issue. Yeah, Super Street Fighter 2, great game. Just super, Street Fighter in general, Street Fighter 2. All right, and then we got some ads here. So here they're talking about this Crash and Burn game. So we've been hearing about it for the past year. We've been waiting to see if the technology was really as advanced as they said it was. We've debated its merits and marketability and turned over every rock to find a review unit. Finally, it has arrived. 3DO. As you all know by now, Crystal Dynamics Crash and Burn comes packed in with the system, and it will be the only action game to be available until the CD release or Crystal Dynamics releases Total Eclipse in November. This is not exactly a problem. Crash and Burn, in addition to being the most technically advanced 3D game ever to appear on a home system, is an incredibly addictive, challenging, and fun to play game. There are 6 different circuits to master with 30 tracks and a number of different different weapon systems to choose from. The gameplay is sort of an advanced version of Road Rash, but it is much more sophisticated. Playing this game is like being transported to some mystical gaming heaven. The texture map, polygons, graphics are the most advanced this side of Daytona, and the twisting roads with their warping horizons and scaling clouds are a thing of beauty. The full motion video used in the intros and for the circuit champions and player selection screen is perfect with excellent voice. Another cool thing is the weapon selection screen, in which you are treated to an animated sequence of your weapon as it will appear on your vehicle. The team at Crystal also employs something we haven't seen before in a game. In tournament, your progress is saved to the unit's memory. The game allows you 3 continues, but the catch is that when you use the continues, the game is erased from the memory. This feature adds to the challenge of an already difficult game. The key to the game lie in understanding the different drivers' strengths and weaknesses and in planning your weapon selection. Once you are on the track, you've got to know when to shoot and when to simply move past trouble. Also, keep an eye on your meters. If they're flashing red, it is time to hit the pits, and always watch your rear view mirror and course map. They will let you know if you have time to pit without losing your place, or if you have to try and make the last lap with flames shooting from your car. Crystal Dynamics has done an incredible job in a short period of time and has established a benchmark on 3DO that should have gamers everywhere frothing at the mouth for their next release. I have seen the future, and the future is 3DO. I don't know if I would say the future's 3DO, but I get it. Back then it was, it definitely must have felt like it at this particular time. So yeah, so I'll read this first little part here because I remember this definitely felt this way. But remember when you made the jump from 8-bit to 16-bit? when you sat in front of the TV staring at Altered Beast in total amazement, well, that is the same feeling you will get when the first time you play Crash and Burn on the 3DO, only magnified by about 10 times. And now that we actually have units here at Gamefan, I can honestly tell you that this is truly the next level, and then some. Also packaged within the unit is everything you see below, plus a whole lot more that wouldn't fit. There is stuff to play with, previews to see, and actual cartoons to watch, and it is far beyond anything we've been playing today. Now we'll sit back and wait for the games, since they are ultimately what will decide the success of the system. The hardware itself is absolutely mind-boggling. See you next month with more 3DO. So yeah, I mean, like I said, I can imagine during that time, right, and all. I mean, I just remember when I first started experiencing the fifth generation systems and all, it was truly mind blowing. Going from mainly 2D to mainly 3D, it was something else. This game looks fairly close to the Genesis version. Here. Let's see. Here's like some. So they're talking about stuff about the Saturn here. So this is like different artist renditions, I guess. Here it talks about the specs of the system. Some interviews there. Looks like some top 10 in Japan. And other stuff. So again, I'll just kind of leave it here for you to kind of browse on and all, but I'll see if I can pick out some highlights here. Okay, so we're talking about Street Fighter the movie here. Project Reality. Huh. I mean, yeah, they were really hyping it up and all, right? They were still talking about like if it would have a CD system, it looks like. Yeah, all right. Now they're talking about Super Metroid also, that it's coming next year. That would end up being a huge game, at least in quality, right? Metroid just hasn't really sold out well. I'm actually starting to get more and more excited for Metroid 4 or Metroid Prime 4 Beyond. Comes out next Thursday, I believe. So I got the game already pre-ordered. I wanted to play it on that day there, since I do happen to have that day off. So looking forward to it. Even though I some of the marketing of that game and all, it's left me a little underwhelmed, but I'm still excited for it now that the release date is approaching. I'm assuming we should start seeing reviews sometime next week. It's going to be my assumption. And so I'm getting more and more excited for it. I'm actually thinking of having a little bit of a Metroid marathon, or it's just not a marathon since I won't be able to beat any of the games, but just kind of going through some of the games and all, sort of reminiscing about the series and all before we jump into Metroid Prime 4. But anyways, that's more modern gaming stuff. But back then, Super Metroid, yeah, was coming out the following year. And so that was a pretty big deal for Metroid fans. And so talking about the Saturn here also, and the Jaguar, which was still, trying to do its thing. Power Instincts. Will Power Instincts be the next big thing in fighting games? Nah, it really didn't do anything. They're trying to do virtual reality back then. Yeah, this must have been a fun way to play a lot of these games here with the 4-way play. Never did get to use something like that and all, but I can imagine it would have been a lot of fun. The Postmeister. Let's see if there's one I can read here kind of quick. More advertisements. More letters. Oh, their letter section is getting bigger. And more ads. Ads. And we get to the end. And they finish it off with this great racing game that we talked about last week. Or, I don't know, last week. What am I talking about? I think one of the previous issues. But yeah, that's it for this issue here. Pretty good stuff there. You know, we're starting to get a glimpse into the 5th generation of gaming. And so this, it doesn't say what month it would have been, but I would assume this would have been around October issue or so of 1993, give or take. But yeah, so we were winding down. We're starting to wind up on stuff from the 32-bit era, and so it was all pretty exciting. But still, definitely some cool stuff though in 1993. 1993 for me was a big year for the Sega. And this is definitely for me one of their better years. I mean, a lot of outside of like that, even though we didn't have like a main Sonic game, but like on the Genesis, but we had Sonic CD, which was excellent, and then also just a lot of other cool games like that Ren and Stimpy game, and Rocket Knight Adventures and stuff like that. But yeah, but hope you enjoyed that little look back here at this issue, and we'll see you sometime. I don't know when, but I'll try to do the next one here at some point soon as we start getting into, I believe it'll be volume 2 at that point. But till the next.